Hey there. Well, it's been a while since I've had much to upload about this car because I've been doing my stuff that I do at the holidays for work. I've been doing a lot of traveling and tending to things. This is the fourth quarter and it's always an important, busy time of the year for us. So we have to do what we do. So I've been doing that. I haven't had a lot of home time, but I've got a day off, full day over the weekend today, and then a half day tomorrow. Then I have to head back out, travel. So I wanted to spend some time on this car again today. I've been picking away at this. The main thing to show, I guess, is that I've got the front floors about where I want them as far as getting all the old metal out. I've got them cut, and I have to just do a little bit of trimming on them, and then they're good to go. I've got my new pans in stock, and I laid them down and made an outline of them. You can barely see it there, but how much metal I had to work with. So I didn't need to necessarily cut that far into it, so I didn't. But I'm happy with it, where it's at now. Just like I said, going to clean up the edges and stuff. Got a lot going on here. You got a exhaust pipe, you got a brake line, a speedometer cable, torsion bar, emergency brake cable, and things like that going on here. Plus, there's the transmission right there. You got to avoid that stuff, and then you got a fuel line over there, which goes back. So, a lot of maneuvering around there. So, we're about there with the floors. I'm going to go ahead and order my rears too, so I can do. I've got a preliminary cut going over there for it, but I don't want to cut out more than I need to. Oh yeah. I was going to show you also. I was suspicious about these. I didn't want to put a full set of pans in here. I guess I could have, but I just didn't want to go there because then you're starting to deal with your seat placement and stuff like that, and I want to avoid that. So for amateur. But this floor somebody's been in here before, and they've put all kinds of black, something kind of black something on here. And I think what it is undercoating. And let me tell you something. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you hear. Undercoating over rust never does anything to help it, okay? It just traps it. And if any moisture gets in there, it just grows and grows and grows. That's why this thing that Toyota did with the truck frames where they just undercoated rusty frames, that was the biggest waste of time. Toyota should have had their ass kicked for that. That's a dumb thing they did, but they did it. But anyway, that's what somebody's done here, and they were trying to preserve these floors by putting undercoating over the rusty floors, and it didn't work. It never works. So you got to seal them. You got to keep them dry. You got to use, like I said, a good like Pour 15 or something like that that will not prevent water to get through, and it encapsulates what rust may be there. So I ground this down with my wire brush, and they're okay. They got some pitting, and each side has got one small hole like that in it. That side's got one over there. You can't really see it because of the angle, but it's on that top of that rib right there. So anyway, that can be patched. I'm not worried about that. The rest of it's okay. So we'll just live with that. Go from that. But this car's had a lot of water in it. A lot of water in it. So the other thing I've been working on also is I had to go around and get all these dadgum trim clips and screws out of these windows. That's what holds the chrome or stainless trim around the windshield and the back window. And it didn't really give me many problems. These things actually were they weren't rusted in, but some of them, like this one, I had to come back and grind it down until it was flush, and then just take a punch and just knock it out in there, and it came out. Because, there's no head left on the screw to speak of. These things are just like lumps of rust right here. So they're all out. I'll order new ones for those. All that. I got to go back around and take my small wire brush and clean this whole thing up thoroughly. And also, in the rear back here, I was suspicious about these corners under the gasket. They looked okay, but I had a bad feeling that these things were thinner than they looked like they were. And they're okay on the outside, but if you look right here, I mean, they're very pitted, but I had one hole open up right there, and then there's one right there. So, I mean, this thing looks like hell right here. It just does. It's had, again, it's been passing a whole lot of water right around the gasket. It wasn't necessarily leaking much into the trunk. It was just going right around the bottom of the gasket. When this thing got old, that bedding compound and glazing compound they used didn't hold up. So, as I showed you before, it's been leaking all the way across right here. So it just goes straight into the back of the car there. So that's what that is. So anyway, but that's minor. That is very, very minor. We just buzz that with a little bit of weld on it, and that'll fix that for good. And then over here, the side looked bad too, but it didn't turn out to have any holes in it, which is amazing. It just shows you how thick this metal is. And again, I had to grind down a couple screws and get them knocked out, but it may be interesting to see if the regular size screw fits back in there. It may not. May have to use a little slightly larger screw, but that's okay. But that's about it, guys. It's just a lot of drudgery work. I don't like doing this kind of work. It's annoying and it's boring, and to make a video showing me doing all this is going to be annoying and boring to you too. So that's about it. One thing I think I'm also going to do while I'm here just doing all this is I'm going to get this out of here. This is all this is the roof rail, and Chrysler put, you can barely see in there, but Chrysler put some seam sealer in it, and it's all cracked and dried up, and people, for whatever reason, they seem to think that this is a leak point. It's not even got any holes in it, but they've come back through. Somebody got a hold of their clear sealer and went all over this thing. It was leaking in there. I guess they didn't believe it could be the windshield seal. Thought it was this. Not. Well, what it was actually the door seals were just gone on this thing. So, I don't understand that. I don't understand how people can be so bad in their thinking. They're not logical thinkers, I guess. They see a leak and they think, well, instead of it being the most simple thing it could be, like the door seals, they think automatically it's the most hard thing to deal with. Well, it's got to be this stuff up here. That's what it is. So I'm going to work on that, get that out, and I'll redo that sealer. I don't want to touch much of the outside of this thing, but some of this stuff I'm going to have to just deal with right now because it didn't have a hole in it. Can you believe it? It's amazing. But anyway, so I'm going to wrap this part for the car up, guys, but I recorded some other stuff last week. I'm talking about a couple different topics about old cars, so stay tuned. I'm going to put that on the end of this. So here we go. So I got all my lights working, and that's good. So I wanted to show you something else. Last year when I was getting this Chrysler going again, that big 66-300 that I have, one of the problems I ran into is that the flashers would not work properly. The turn signals, you turn them on and they would hyper flash. And that just means that they just, instead of just blinking at a normal rate, they just blink, 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 You're not supposed to do that. So I got investigating that and turned out that I guess I had the wrong flasher in it from some point way on back there. Somebody put the wrong one in it. And so I put one in out of one of the Plymouths out here, one of the A-bodies, which is a different number from what was in it, and it works much better. But that led me to do some investigation about that. So I wanted to find out exactly what flasher is supposed to be in one of those cars out there. And the thing with the flasher assemblies and units are that they are different based on the load that is imposed upon them, meaning you can have a flasher for a car that has one light in the front and one light in the rear per side, which means two lights, two lamps, as I would say. And then you have one that may have three lamps, one in the front, two in the rear. And then you may have one that's got even four. You have one lamp up front and three in the rear. So The flasher base being just that it's just it's not really a variable load at all. Some of them are, but normally they're not. But they just, you put a load on it. It's just got a set of contacts in there. You put a load on it, and it heats that up, and then it flips open and breaks the circuit, and then it cools down and makes the connection again, and that's what gives you your flashing. Just ding, 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 ding. So if you have some sort of issue where it's flashing like taking way too long to flash, or it's flashing like mine was too fast, so evidently, if that's the case, evidently you got the wrong flasher unit. So I started looking around, and these days when you try to find any kind of information on the internet, it's useless. You can't find anything that's pertinent. Everything now, if you put in flasher assembly specifications for any kind of car, all it's going to do, these companies that sell flashers, they buy up these domains, and they work real hard to get their results ranked high. So the first page or two that you're ever going to find on an internet search, a Google search, is going to be just their bull crap wanting to sell you flashers. It's useless. Don't ever buy anything from these people because they're just taking advantage of the situation. So anyway, that's no help. So I started digging around, and I remember I had seen where somebody had put up on the internet, might have been on mymopar.com, I think it was. They put up some Mopar parts books, which means that you can get into these things on the internet, electronic copies, and you can go through and look at for every certain car, you can look at every part that went on it and the part number, and that's what I needed. So I dug up and found that thing, and I think that's where it's at for the 66 out here, and for my Plymouth, the 68, the one that's right here behind me. So I was curious about that. I want to find out what the heck kind of flasher goes in those. Now, one thing to remember ahead of time is that there were aftermarket suppliers of flashers. They were not made by Chrysler. Chrysler just bought flashers from people that made flashers, like Signal Stat and Ideal and places like that. So that said, I finally dug through all that, and I found out some interesting information. The one that goes on this car is for a 2-light system. It's got 1 light up front, 1 in the back, a 2-lamp. So that one is a number 223. It's got a 224 in it, which works just fine, but because I already had that. But that's the one that's for this car. And so this Chrysler out here, since it has 1 lamp in the front and 2 in the rear, it's called a 3-lamp system. So 3 total lamps per site. So that was not the right flasher for it. It works in it, but it's not the right one for it. So turned out the spec for that one is a number 322 flasher, and Chrysler has a part number for it in there, but that's what it comes back to. You can take the part number out of the parts book, and you can get on the internet and search that number, and it starts coming up with some results. And so I narrowed it down, and this is what I found on eBay. I bought 2 of them. Turn signal flasher, make your signals safe. Replace your old and worn out flasher now for safe and positive control of turn signal instrument panel indicator lights. Installs in seconds, just plug in. No special tools needed. 322 is the number. 12 volt. Fits all Chrysler Court cars 64 to 65. Flashing 2 rear signals, and Cadillac 60 to 62, Chevrolet Impala 59 to 68, and Pontiac 58 to 63 flashing 2 rear signals. That's important to remember that. And then you look on the back of this. I know it says 64 or 65, but there's more. So see if the phone, there we go. Here's a partial list of this. For every car and truck, an ideal flasher. Skip this. It says most cars since 1949 and some earlier models have flasher sockets located on the driver's side under the instrument panel. Simply remove old flasher and plug in new flasher. Chrysler Products 4953 locate their flasher on the engine side of the firewall. Most cars prior to 1949 do not have sockets and require wiring. Simply remove leads from old flasher one at a time and wire each lead to the same terminal on the new flasher. So you can see it gives you this is very good to know this. I'll kind of go over this. You can see Buick Special all the way up through there. Cadillac 40, fixed load and heavy duty. So all the different years. high source 65 to 68 with 2 rear signals, excuse me. So 322 right there on that bottom line. 1 rear signal is a 223. Dart 223. See this number, you can pause this if you need to, but Howard, your 63 to 67 all except Thunderbird takes a 224 signal flasher. Hudson, Lincoln, Mercury and Comet, Metropolitan, Packard, Plymouth, and Valiant. There's a truck. You may wonder why did they say, now this is a NOS, that's why this stuff is not like a new packaging at all, but this is probably from about 1970, 69 or 70, but you may wonder, well, why does it say Plymouth and Valiant? That's because that in the early days of selling these Plymouth Valiants, Valiant was considered a separate car. It was a Plymouth, but it was considered, they wanted to accent on it, so that's what they did. They sold Plymouths and then they sold Valiants. So by this time though, in '68, they was just incorporated into Plymouth. They, want anything special. So I'm going to go ahead and throw one of these on that car out there and then go for a drive. You want to go with me? So here it is, by the way. That's probably the date code on it right there, 47 of 68. So that would be very near the end of 1968. So there you go. And I checked the one on that gold dart out there, and it actually has the original flasher in it, date coded for the end of 1968 also. So this one didn't. Okay, guys. Well, just another one of these things just to kind of talk about a little bit, some obscure trivia. Oh yeah, one other thing. We'll wrap it up. You notice anything different about these headlamps? I do. Look at the fluting pattern on this one. And look at the fluting on this one. See how it's different? This is a post-1972 headlamp. This one is a 72 and down. They changed this in 1972 for whatever reason. But if you ever see these headlamps, a lot of people ignore this, so they don't pay attention to it, but you'll know how old your headlamp is, so to speak. They got date codes on them too. But these are just old seal beam headlights. There's no real operational difference in them. But that's one way to tell how old, if you have a chance of one of the headlamps being original to your car, if you see one of these in there. I don't know if that one is or not. But the Chrysler has a burned out low beam on the right side over there. One that's probably its original ones that looks like this. And it's a number, I believe it's a number 4022 headlamp. And let me tell you, for a sealed beam, they're impossible to find. You can't find them on eBay. I missed one about a month ago and I'm sick about it, but missed one of the originals in the original packaging. I have looked and I've looked and I've looked and I've looked. You just can't find them. They don't exist because low beams burned out a lot quicker than high beams did. So I guess I'm just going to have to go ahead and break down and buy one that's got this kind of pattern on it. It's going to break up my set, but there's no other option. If I want to drive it after dark, I have to have 4 headlamps. So, and another thing too, people have been conditioned now to buy these halogen headlamps. It's the first thing you ever hear people say. They say, "Oh, you need to upgrade those. You need to upgrade those seal beams, man. You can't see with those. Just put those halogens in, man. It's much better." Well, I was on that train too for a while. I believe that malarkey. And then I got doing some research and ran across this post this person made. He said, the thing about this is where people are misguided about this, where they're following the lead of the people who sell headlamps, is that quite a few of these old seal beam headlamps actually were higher wattage than the new ones. I think these are, now I'm not positive on this, I'd have to make sure, but some of these are 50 watt on low beam, and the new ones, the halogen replacements, are 35 watt. If you ever look on the specs for that, because when they went to halogen, see, there's a brighter light. But the thing is, they thought, well, here's a good idea to fool people, and we'll save energy by creating a lower power headlamp. They won't know any difference. All they'll know is they got a halogen, and it's better, and the color of the headlamp's a little bit different when it's on, and everybody be happy, and nobody know the difference. But there's at least there's a few smart people out here who do know the difference and did know the difference in them. So before you go rushing to replace these things, do a little bit of research, because you're probably not doing any favors for yourself. I did some checking on the parts store websites and looked at the headlamps for like this 7-inch headlamp. And sure enough, one of them on low beam that they sell, like one of those Sylvanias or something like that, it's like 35 watts on low beam. I thought that's no improvement. There's a lot of stuff that people don't realize is going on like that. You're being fooled with stuff like this, and you don't realize it. But anyway, that's just the way it is these days. People are all about trying to sell stuff to people and make a buck, I guess. So anyway, before you go looking for a better headlamp and a halogen, be sure you know what you're getting. Oh my goodness, dead car in the parking lot. Let's see what happened. Looks like the old gas tank fell out. Yeah, they grabbed the tag off of it, so it's over. It's over for that one. I'm actually shocked to see one of those 626s actually running anymore. Motors are good in them, but the transmissions, nope. Let's see if it'll let me approach him. He was out here last night. What you doing, buddy? What you doing, buddy? I don't think they can see very well. Bless his heart. Well, they'll tear a yard up, though. Still pretty quiet for nearly 100,000 miles.